extra point taken. Sheil Kapadia here, joined by Ben Solak. It is the Monday show. You know what I got to do, Solak. We are now 10 days away from the NFL draft. The countdown continues. You know what we do on Mondays. We trade 3 takes each, and then Solak is going to finish today with the extra point. 2 quick housekeeping notes, Solak, before we get started. 1, we want to do a mailbag episode on Friday. So tweet at us, email us. Is your email address still in your Twitter
Solak at
bio?
Spotify.com, baby. Say hi.
Okay. You can email either of us. You can tweet at us. You can message us on Instagram, whatever social media you find us on. Send us a message, and we'll get to some of those questions on the Friday show. And then, of course, remember to subscribe to Ringer NFL on YouTube. This entire episode you can watch on that channel. Solak is wearing a green Ringer shirt, which I also own, which I should have worn today, giving people even more reason to check out the full YouTube show. Maybe we'll do that for a future episode. Maybe we
what do you got? You're in the aqua, all right? You're fit with this, like the.
I got the team content.
That's
the
team content
T-shirt.
Let's go.
That my daughter got me, so I am team content. So I'm rocking that T-shirt on this beautiful day. All right, Solak, what do you got for us? Lead us off. What is your first take today?
All right, my first take is that the closer we get to the draft without a trade happening is scary news for the Minnesota Vikings. All right, now let me make something very clear. I still believe the Vikings are in the best position to make the trade up, to get into the top 3, get into the top 4, and select that quarterback. I absolutely do. Let's say for the purposes of this conversation, they're trading up to 4 because quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3. I think that's like the simplest way to think about this. I've no doubt that they're in the strongest position to do that. I think stronger than the Denver Broncos, right? So who are picking at 12, 1 pick behind the Vikings. Stronger than the Las Vegas Raiders, who are picking at 13, 2 picks behind the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, they're in a stronger position, Sheil. They have 2 first-round picks this year, 11 and 23, which they went and got from the Texans a few weeks ago, presumably to improve their package. 2, not a future first, but this year first, right? 2 current year first-round picks to go trade up to go to 4th overall. So they have that over the Broncos, who only have this year's first. The Raiders, who only have this year's first. The Broncos are missing a second-round pick, the Sean Payton deal. The Vikings very clearly have the best capital. Ergo, if they were making an offer that was clearly better than the other offers, all right, and it was a strong enough offer that the Cardinals were like 100% going to take it at 4, there's a good shot that would have happened by now. Right now, you say, Ben, you can't be trading up before draft night. A lot of stuff could go down, and there's no need to. You don't trade up this early. It's not always true, right? The Sam Darnold trade, the Trey Lance trade. These trades happened before the NFL draft began. Teams moving up, not for 1 overall, not for 2 overall, but 3 overall and later, believing they knew the first couple of picks to be calcified and saying, we feel confident getting into this position and making the quarterback selection. But you say, Ben, we don't know who's going to 2. We don't know. Well, Jane Daniels, he might not be that second overall pick. Might be Drake May. Might be Jason McCarthy. They can't move up yet. You telling me if a certain quarterback goes at 2, the Vikings still aren't going to take a quarterback at 4? I think when they made the move at 23, they kind of passed the point and overturned. I think they know they want to move up for a quarterback. So for me, I think this is my read on the situation. And the most likely outcome is the Vikings trade up and the Vikings go get their guy. But my read on the situation is that the Vikings have been on the phone trying to establish the price for deals to move up for their quarterback. And I think if they had a grandfather offer that the Cardinals are absolutely going to say yes to, that deal would have been done by now. So I think one of a few things, maybe a couple of a few things can be true. 1, the Vikings are just not putting all their cards on the table, not sending the grandfather offer, because they're pretty confident that they'll be able to beat the Broncos offer, beat the Raiders offer. They know if on draft day the Broncos come with a great offer, the Cardinals will call them back, will check in, and then they can beat it by a pick. So, they feel like they don't have to put their grandfather offer yet. I think that might be true. I think it might be true that the Commanders really are so much of a wild card that everybody's paralyzed. The Patriots are paralyzed at 3, which means the Cardinals are a little bit paralyzed at 4, which means that all the trade-up offers, maybe the Commanders and how tight they're playing this to the best. Everybody thinks it's Jaden Daniels. Adam Schefter's told everybody who will listen, we think it's Jaden Daniels, but nobody's moving, right? The markets aren't moving, teams aren't moving, so I don't think anybody really knows for sure. Maybe the Commanders do indeed have everybody paralyzed. Or maybe it's the case that the Vikings have their nice big offer on the table, and the Broncos are willing to mortgage the whole future to compete, or the Raiders are willing to mortgage the whole future. we have all stuck ourselves to this reality that the Vikings will be the team that gets it done. And just every day that we get closer to the draft, that trade doesn't happen, I feel a little squeamisher. I'm a little bit shaky. I'm just a little bit more worried that the Vikings might not have such a chokehold on that trade up as right now we think they do.
Well, I think you laid out the good explanations of why that could be the case. I mean, you know me too. You knew what I was going to say, so then you got out in front of it.
I have it broken down by Sheil counterpoints, man. I was ready to defend this one.
Yeah, I think you laid it out well because the Commanders are a wild card, so that's number one. We don't know exactly who they're going to pick. The Patriots are a wild card. We don't know who they're going to pick. Could it be a situation that the Vikings say, all right, if Drake May is available at 4, then we will give up X. However, if it goes Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels in some order, and it's JJ McCarthy, the Vikings plan might change. They might say, all right, we like JJ McCarthy. Maybe we don't love him the way we love a Drake May, where we would just be willing to do something like they could have different valuations on the two players. They could like them both a lot and want to acquire one of them, but they might say, you know what? JJ McCarthy might slip a little. Maybe we don't need to make that offer to 4. Maybe now we get into like, well, what kind of risk are you willing to take on? And are you willing to take on the risk that another team could trade up there and go ahead and get that quarterback and beat your offer? And now all of a sudden it's week 1 and you've got Sammy Darnold out there starting your season for you. Are you willing to live with that or not? So I think those are some of the things that are absolutely in play. I would think that, like, how do you think they stack those quarterbacks? Knowing what you know about Kevin O'Connell, about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and that Vikings organization, the offense that they run, and also these quarterback prospects, I sort of feel like Drake May is probably the guy that they say, man, if he gets to 4, like now we're ready to go big on this guy because of the upside. JJ McCarthy, we like, we'll give a certain offer at 4, but maybe we'll see if he slips a couple spots and give a lesser offer. That's what my gut tells me, just as we're talking this out. How do you kind of see that?
I'm very confident they have Jaden third of the non-Caleb.
I agree with that.
Caleb's off the board. When they talked about quarterbacks at the combine, they talked about youth, and they talked about throwing on the move. And Jaden is just an old guy who doesn't throw on the move.
Throwing over the middle? Yeah.
Or over the middle, exactly. Just not a fit for their offense, not a fit for their style. I also, from the outside, would think that they would like Dre a little bit more than JJ, just because so much of what has made that offense good has been the intermediate to deep shots, and that's where Drake is definitely
better. Did you call him Dre?
Drake is better than JJ.
Oh, Drake. I thought you were combining Drake and May, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, you're much more ingrained in kind of the NFL draft stuff than I am. So I'm like, wait, am I supposed to be calling him Dre now too? No, okay, Drake May. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I personally would think they would like Drake over JJ. Now, I talked about the intermediate and the deep throws. You can go on the other hand and say, Minnesota in each of the last few Kirk Cousins here has led the league in like drop back rate from under center, and so much of JJ's offense in Michigan was not so much, but more so than Drake at UNC was drop back from under center and play action pass and what have you. And so either one of them has their bread buttered a little bit for this offense. I think Drake's aggression is probably a little bit more what they're looking for, but at the same time, like I just like Drake May so much that there probably isn't going to be an offense in the league where you're like, oh, who do you think they'd prefer? I wouldn't land on Drake. I just think Drake is dramatically a better player than McCarthy. So it's a little bit unfair. If the fairy Vikings godmother came down to me tomorrow and said they love JJ and they like him way more than May, that wouldn't shock me at all. It's my personal leaning kind of goes to the Drake May thing.
Yeah, you're right. Because if there were a team that you would say just kind of the things they're looking for and what they want to do offensively, who does it fit better? Like JJ McCarthy, you could actually make a good case for him over Drake May in that respect. Now, again, I always say, NFL coaches, calm down. You can teach these guys some things. It's not just, oh, they did this in college, they're going to come in and they can do that for me. Sometimes you're able to say, no, you did that, but we can get you to do this, and we'll all meld it together and we'll play to your strengths. Kind of what the money's for coaching. But yeah, you could certainly make that case. So, you are right that in the past teams have made the big swings before the draft, and we've gone into the draft with teams like the Eagles with Carson Wentz, teams like the 49ers with Trey Lance going up there and taking those guys. So maybe it'll come in the days ahead. Maybe we'll be doing an emergency pod, as soon as we sign off for
Yeah.
this one, and we'll be talking about how the Vikings moved up there. But I think the reasons you laid out are good reasons for why they might just sort of be waiting here.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
do want to say there was I thought a really nice article by Kevin Seifert on ESPN specifically about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, the GM of the Vikings and their situation at quarterback. Titled "Vikings Won't Force a Trade to Draft the Quarterback." Two things that were said in the article that really stands out. Kwesi was talking about trade market and how you set your prices. And reading from the article, it says Adofo-Mensah has noted the potential for irrational decisions from other teams, stressed the importance of, quote, walkaway prices, and insisted that, quote, your only leverage in the negotiation is your willingness to do something else, right? So I think a very big part of Kwesi's discourse right now about like the trade up is like, hey, like if somebody goes to do something crazy, like we're not going to do something crazy just to beat them. And the fact that like that's a narrative that he is talking about right now indicates to me there's a chance somebody out there is trying to do something crazy, and he's cognizant of that, and he needs to protect himself from that. The other thing that is worth noting is just when Seifert is going through the quarterback teams, he talked about the Broncos at 12 and the Raiders at 13, who are the trade up candidates. But there's one more trade up candidate, 2-3 or 2-4 that we have to talk about, and that's the Giants at 6. Which the more the Giants' potential of taking a quarterback becomes real, the more now the Vikings don't have the earliest pick of the trade up team. Go, we'll just move back to 11. You can tell the Patriots, hey, move back from 3 to 6. You might still be able to get Marv. Cardinals, move back from 4 to 6. You still might never to get Marv, get Malik. Like the Giants being introduced as a candidate at 6 really throws a wrench in the Vikings' plan. So two other things to watch as we go through the last week before the draft.
All right. I'm pulling an old switcheroo, Solak. If you're a draft process, you got to be able to adjust. If you're a GM working the phones like your boy Monty Ossenfort with the video that you love so much, you got to be able to adjust. I'm going to adjust. This was initially going to be my third take, but you mentioned this team multiple times. And so let's get to them now. My first take, the most confounding team going into this draft is the Denver Broncos. I have no idea what this team is going to do. I'm not even totally sure what I think they should do. Okay, so you look at their offseason, they take their medicine, they move on from Russell Wilson, they trade Jerry Jeudy. So where does that leave them? That leaves them with the 12th overall pick and 8 picks overall, but that's a little deceiving. So like 6 of those picks are on day 3. They only have 2 picks in the first 3 rounds of the draft. Then you go over, you check out their depth chart. All right, what do they need? What are they looking for here? If the season started today, it would be Jarrett Stidham throwing to Cortland Sutton, Josh Reynolds, and Marvin Mims. I don't really know how Sean Payton might feel about that. So you look at that. There was an offseason report from the Athletics, Diana Rossini, last month, or I guess it was more than a month now, saying that they at least kicked the tires on Kirk Cousins. All right. Wait, they were looking at a veteran quarterback at that age, thinking maybe we can win a little bit now, but now you look at the roster, can you really win now? So what is their plan? Do they come out of this draft with a quarterback? Are they, as you indicated, potentially a mystery team that says we have 12, we're close enough where we can take a big swing on one of these guys, get up there to number 4. We can't be shy just because the Russell Wilson thing didn't work out with the big swing there. We still need to add a quarterback. We can't go into the season like this. Or do they do something else? Do they look at it and say, you know what, this is just a take our medicine type of year. Let's just be smart. Let's draft some young, talented players the best we can. Let's build up the roster. We'll try to be competitive, knowing that we might not be a great team this year. And then next offseason, maybe Dak Prescott's available. Maybe there are other options available where we can get that veteran quarterback in here. And then the last thing, Solak, that makes this weird is like the head coach GM dynamic in Denver. Like, we know Sean Payton has the juice. You sign him to that contract. He's got the juice. At the same time, like George Payton, what is his role there? Are these two on the same page with how they want to build this thing? Is one guy saying, no, I need to save my job? Is the other guy saying, no, we don't want to do it that way? So there are a lot of complicating factors. I can't figure it out. Here's where I landed. Tell me if you agree or disagree. I actually don't think they're going to be the team to take a big swing on a rookie quarterback. I think about Sean Payton, and I think he probably doesn't want like a 2 or 3 year process here where he's grooming somebody, a rookie who doesn't have that knowledge base. I think he would prefer more of a sure thing, even if it means waiting a year. So I think they're just either going to sit tight, trade back, draft some players. It might be sort of boring. They're going to try to add some young talent. And then next offseason, they're going to address quarterback. Where are you with the Broncos? Do you agree with me or do you disagree with me?
Well, let me ask this. Okay, so they wait a year and they address quarterback next offseason and they get the more sure thing. Not the rookie with no knowledge base, but the more sure thing. Who? Like, they getting Dak? Like, who are they getting?
Maybe.
They got Dak money? They're still going to have Russell Wilson dead cap hit.
Listen, that's next year. They're taking their medicine here. You can always find. We know you can always find a way. You can give the big signing bonus. You got that Walmart money. You had some void years at the end of it. Yeah, they have Dak money, sure.
I think that right, like the idea of finding certainty in the veteran quarterback market is like a lovely idea for like a bridge QB1 into a QB2. It is very rare for a starting caliber quarterback to end up on a different team than the one he started with, right? It usually takes he's got to be super old or he's got to be coming off of injury, right? Like the best free agent quarterback before Kirk Cousins this past year was Kirk Cousins coming out of Washington, right? Like that's like you don't get like good guys who are just on the market for no reason. You can say, oh well, Dak will be a little bit old, but Dak will be what next year? 34? Oh, 31. Excuse me, 31. I was thinking Kirk Cousins. Dak will be 31 next year, and so like he's still going to be very much in his prime. Like it's a very rare thing to have a starting caliber quarterback, playoff caliber, Super Bowl caliber quarterback be available in free agency. So if you're saying Sean Payton's not going to go for a rookie because he would prefer to find that, then I'll tell you, Sean Payton's going to have to take a rookie at some point because you don't just find that. That's not just under a rock for you. So I think like even if you want to say, this year they're going to pass, they're going to be in the same spot next year, right? They're going to be picking outside the top 10, but inside the top 16. And Jared Stidham's not going to be the solution. And okay, maybe they put a Dak offer on the table if he actually does hit free agency, but then they get outpriced by somebody. And now you have to take a guy and next year's class isn't as good. Like not selling the farm for the quarterback trade up. I hear you. If they leave this draft without a quarterback taken in the first like 2 or 3 rounds, I think that's gross roster.
Yeah, I should say it's not an either or situation because I'm with you. I don't think they're going to take the big swing in round 1. But yes, if you draft a quarterback at some point and then next year you add a veteran, maybe it's not Dak, but now you feel like you've thrown a couple darts and you figure they're just in this weird spot. I don't know what their move is. I mean, I'm not telling you that like what I said I think they're going to do is necessarily the right move because you're right. I mean, Dak Prescott's market next year as a free agent is going to be absurd when you look at the teams that could potentially be involved.
And you say, okay, like, Denver's going to put an offer on the table. It's going to make him the highest paid quarterback, right? So how could he say no? I think he'll probably have more than one. I think he'll have at least multiple offers on the table that would put him at 55, 56, 57. So now you get to pick. Are you picking Denver over anyone else? Like, I'm in a lot of instances, I'm taking like, okay, go be with Sean Payton, but you walk through the wide receiver room, right? I think the state of that defense is going to be terrible. You're joining a division with Patrick Mahomes, with Justin Herbert in a conference that has Lamar Jackson, that has Josh Allen, has Joe Burrow. I don't know if I want to be spending my time in Denver trying to get through all that slog, right? My general rule, like one of my Sheil Kapadia rules, my maxims of understanding the NFL is when the head coach has charge of the front office, expect short-term moves, right? Expect short-sightedness, right? It's the head coach's job to win now. It is the GM's job to win 3 years from now, right? The head coach is concerned, like in order to keep his job, the head coach needs to do a good job with the roster he has. In order for the GM to keep his job, he has to show that he's building a good roster for the future. So once the head coach gets his hands on the general manager's resources, once he gets his grubby little paws on the picks and he gets control of the draft room, as I understand and imagine Sean Payton has now, I always expect future capital to be used for short-term gains. That's my expectation. So that's what leads me to believe the Broncos are a stronger trade-up candidate, a stronger sell the farm for J.J. McCarthy candidate than I think you do. And Sean Payton knows what the trap door is. He knows the out. He knows the escape hatch. He did it in New Orleans. Just retire, right? Like Sean Payton's fine. All right, he's proven he's one of the best coaches. He absolutely is. Like this will not be that big of a black mark on. Oh, he didn't fix Russell Wilson. Like that's not going to be a huge black mark on his record. Like Sean Payton's legacy is good. He's got his ring. Like does he have a ring? I think he has his ring. Yeah, Sean Payton's good. Yeah. Like If Sean Payton drafts JJ McCarthy with future first, and then McCarthy's terrible in a year and a half, you just retire. Go kick your feet up in Turks and Caicos. GG's.
Well, as a TTC proponent, I would suggest get yourself fired. Don't retire. Let's, make sure that Walmart money is still depositing in the account. Sean Payton, I think he's smart enough to do that as well. It's funny your coach GM point, because in this instance, the GM might be on board with like, let's go do it. I don't want to just wait around a year. Like, his job security is not going to be better next offseason than it is now if they don't do anything and finish 7-10. And it's like, we'll keep you around and hang out and make some decisions. So they could be aligned there. I don't know. Just something in my head says does. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he'll fall in love with one of these prospects and they'll take a big swing. That's why they are a confounding team, because I don't know what to think. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they should do. They don't really have a great path here going forward to solve that big quarterback problem. Solak, what do you got?
Joe, my second take's brought to you by State Farm. How exciting is that? All right. It's time for Win-Win Situations, which is a new segment presented by State Farm. There are a lot of moments in life that call for a celebration. Creating your State Farm personal price plan can be one of them. And so we're talking win-win situations. I think a nice win-win situation today came when the Eagles extended DeVonta Smith, 3 years, $75 million. Really, this is a win-win-win. All right. We all win, because it's good for DeVonta, good for the Eagles, and most importantly, it's good for me, because as an Eagles fan, I've been very excited about the DeVonta Smith contract extension. I've been looking forward to DeVonta Smith wearing an Eagles jersey for many, many, many years, and now he's locked in. So it's 3 years, $75 million extension. They also picked up his 5th-year option while they did this, and so it's not that Smith's an Eagle for the next 3 years. Really, is an Eagle through 2028. Right, he's an Eagle through the next 4 and then into 5 seasons. Accordingly, that $25 million, like, that's just the details on the extension. If you include the 5th-year option, it's really more like $22.75 million, which is still a top 10 wide receiver contract, right? Calvin Ridley right now is making 23 per year. Terry McLaurin is making 23.2 per year. T. Higgins at the tag is coming in 21.8, and DJ Moore coming in at 20,000. So it's about market rate you'd expect for a starting wide receiver one, right? For like a wide receiver one caliber, great wide receiver, like lead guy of a team. And the Eagles are paying that to their second wide receiver. It is a nice payday for DeVonta Smith. If you just look at like total guarantees, he's got $51 million guaranteed on his extension. AJ Brown had $57 million guaranteed. All right, total on his deal. Like, they paid him like he is absolutely right up there with AJ Brown as like that level of talent, that level of guy. And he's clearly second fiddle to Brown in terms of the team's pecking order. So that is a really nice payday for DeVonta Smith.
Well,
go ahead.
To interrupt you real quick, I would say yes and no. I mean, that AJ Brown deal was 2 years ago when the cap was very different. So if you're looking at it in terms of percentage of cap, and if you're really looking at it in terms of like DeVonta Smith, if he wanted to maximize his earnings, which is not, again, we have to remind ourselves, sometimes just getting $51 million guaranteed is pretty good, and you're in the neighborhood the way you said it. So I actually think from Eagles' perspective, it's sort of like, yeah, like this is definitely cheaper than it would potentially be down the road, in my opinion, for DeVonta Smith. Because even if, I mean, he is a 2, you're right. I think if you're his agent, you could easily make the case, yeah, but if he's on the open market, he's getting paid like a 1, and it's going to be more.
Of course. Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. I like all wide receiver contracts is like, 2 years ago we lived in a different world than we lived in, right? The some of like the Christian Kirk deals and the Calvin Ridley deals, like these deals are going to have some big ramifications. You can absolutely make an argument like, oh, DeVonta would be a 1 on another team. There's no doubt at all that DeVonta would have made more money if he hit free agency and went to another team. With that said, to have an offseason in which like Michael Pittman, who is clearly and emphatically the wide receiver 1 with the Colts, get $23 million. Calvin Ridley, who was like very clearly the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars last year, to make $23 million. And then to come around, DJ Moore, wide receiver 1, making 20. Mike Evans for the Bucs making 20.5. To be DeVonta Smith, to have clearly at all times been the wide receiver 2 on your team, and to come in at that figure is, in my opinion, a win. That is absolutely, because you're getting that right now. You're being handed that for always have been a wide receiver 2 over the course of your career, right? And also, again, you're getting it now as opposed to getting it a couple years down the road after your 5th-year option, right? This is still like, and I brought up the AJ Brown deal because I think a lot of other teams don't run business like the Eagles would have come in and said, okay, well, here's the AJ's making 25 per year. He's making 57 total in guarantees. So since like he's our 1, you got to be making remarkably less than. Like you have to be making substantially less than that. And the Eagles didn't do that. They said we're going to knock like 5% off of this, and then we're going to give you that deal. And that to me is like that's a big statement from the Eagles to do that now and to have those numbers look like the AJ Brown numbers. So I hear you absolutely. Like you could have got more blood from the stone, but in terms of like getting an extension, the offseason you became eligible to do it, to stay with the team that has you and get paid wide receiver 1 money despite the fact you're wide receiver 2. To me, that's a win for DeVonta.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. It's a win for you,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, because the other thing, Solak, if you're an Eagles fan, it's like you don't want that locker room sort of, well, this guy's being paid much more than this guy deal. They're getting paid the exact same amount. Like that's good for the locker room. That's good for DeVonta Smith. That's good for the Eagles. And the other big story here, I think, is that other fan bases, owners, GMs, teams, like the excuses that they make for why they don't keep players, their fan bases can say, wait, look at the Eagles, what they're paying Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith in a longer list. I know you tweeted about it today, like just a bunch of guys at or near the top of the market. And what does this go back to? To me, it goes to two things. One is the Eagles' secret thing, and I don't like to come on here and give owners a lot of praise, but when your owner is willing to shell out cash that allows you to extend these contracts, give big signing bonuses, and allows you to prorate them over the course of many years with void years. It allows you cap flexibility, and it allows you to make more moves. That's one. Jeffrey Lurie has consistently been at the top or near the top in terms of cash spending in the NFL. It's something we don't talk about enough. We talk too much about cap and not enough about how much is the owner willing to spend in terms of cash right now at this instance to keep a core player, because that can really be a big edge that you have, and that's a big edge that they have. And then the other thing, Solak, and it's in comparison to what we've talked about in the past with the Cowboys. Look how the Eagles approach this with their stars. They're saying, we're going to be early, we're going to take care of them, we're going to be aggressive. It's not always going to work out. There will be times where you do that, and then down the road you say, all right, that was probably a contract we shouldn't have given them. But you know what? It's like the players you have in your building who have performed, you know them better than any other thing you could spend resources on, better than draft picks, better than free agents, better than guys you trade for. You know all their strengths, weaknesses, locker room fit, culture, injury history, how they perform in big spots, teammate, all that thing. And so the Eagles' philosophy is, let's be ahead of the curve and pay these guys. I mean, with DeVonta Smith, if they wait even until training camp, and Justin Jefferson gets signed, maybe T. Higgins gets signed, and now all of a sudden, the numbers you gave on DeVonta Smith, his agents tell him, well, yeah, it's a little bit, this guy, and it looks a lot different. They got ahead of the curve. What are the Cowboys doing? We know that they have not been at the top in terms of cash spending, and we know that they have not taken care of these guys early. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, now maybe Micah Parsons. It's the opposite approach, and the Cowboys end up spending more, being in worse cap space, and not having players that are home. I mean, the Cowboys have drafted better than the Eagles, but they're going to be in a worse spot than the Eagles because of that different approach. And so I think I said other day, if you're a Cowboys fan, you look at your organization and go, how can they do that with their guys? And we're complaining that we can't take care of our guys. And the reason is because of ownership, and the way you're managing your roster is not the same as the other team in your division.
And the particularly frustrating thing is that I think for a lot of other teams, why isn't my general manager doing this? Why isn't he signing these extensions early? And part of the answer is your general manager doesn't know if he's holding the job in 2 years, holding the job in 3 years, right? It's like, oh, let me go sign this DeVonta Smith extension before we hit market. Dude, by the time that kicks in, you might be fired. You might be gone. You just signed that deal for somebody else. You don't get to reap any of the benefits of signing this deal early. In Philadelphia, Howie Roseman's been there for so long. He's been running the team, and he had his 1 year in the corner. But other than that, it's been great. Like the trust that Lurie has enables Roseman to sign these deals very early, keep the Eagles healthy, because Roseman is incentivized to do so, knowing he's going to be around. In Dallas, the GM's the owner. You have the ultimate. You have so much stability.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you're positive you're holding on to the job. Why would you not be getting a 5-year view in the room, a 10-year view in the room? You can actually do this. Now, you brought up like the CeeDee Lamb name and the Justin Jefferson name. It's crazy. Like most of the top of the 2020 wide receiver class hasn't had been extended yet. And the Eagles got a deal done with the top of the 2021 class in DeVonta Smith. They did this the first year it was eligible. But in my opinion, the most important name isn't Justin Jefferson, nor is it CeeDee Lamb that you want to be. It's Brandon Ayuk, right? And that's where I think some of this 49ers drama really starts to get involved, because Brandon Ayuk has been the arguably wide receiver 1, but wide receiver 2. How do we think about this player? Where is he relative to Deebo Samuel? Like the 49ers, if they wanted to, and the 49ers, cap situation is trickier than the Eagles, but they could have come in and said, okay, Deebo Samuel's making, $23.8 million a year. Deebo Samuel's got 58 in total guarantees. Let's try to give Brandon Ayuk something that reflects that he is at that caliber. Let's give it to him early, but they didn't do that. And now you have this season where Ayuk was really, 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 really good last year. Really, really, really good. Deebo's been missing more time. And it creates a greater imbalance. Now it's harder to get that contract in front of Brandon Ayuk. And now Ayuk's talking about, does he want to get traded? His agent has to clarify he's not asking for trades. And Ayuk's tweeting stuff, sending Instagram pictures about, I don't want to be here. Like, things get noxious, right? Things that are, it feels great and then it's not. And so Ayuk's situation is really the one that I think is the one that you want to preempt if you're the Eagles. You want to pay DeVonta before anything can get messy between him and AJ because, hey, like, AJ Brown was not the friendliest dude in the entire world this season. I know there's a lot that went into that, but like, friction can show up out of nowhere. And so let's get him paid before any of that happens. And let's make sure that we beat the Brandon Ayuk situation. Because if he goes to Pittsburgh, he gets traded on draft night and Pittsburgh gives him a top 3 contract. Now DeVonta Smith's agent can come and say, that guy was a wide receiver 2. Every single snap that he plays, wide receiver 2 to Deebo Samuel. And he plays a similar role in a similar style to DeVonta Smith, and we need that money. And so, to me, like, the win here for the Eagles, right? It's a win for DeVonta Smith. The win for the Eagles is preempting not just Justin Jefferson, not just CeeDee Lamb, but also preempting, like, Brandon Ayuk and Jalen Waddle and some of these guys coming up who are really, really great receivers, but have been wide receiver 2s for their teams, and I think could have changed the market for elite wide receiver 2s a little bit. They got ahead of that market. I think that's a really, really big win for them.
Yeah, Ayuk is a good comp because I was just gonna say Ayuk is a good comp because he also has more leverage than DeVonta Smith because he is entering the final year of his contract where, like you said, the Eagles still had the 5th-year option. They still had a franchise tag. They go ahead and do it early. Now Ayuk can look at that and say, all right, that's the floor of my deal is DeVonta Smith. Now, how much higher than that are we potentially going? So, he is absolutely a good comp and probably the next guy to watch here.
Yeah. So that is my win-win-win. Go Eagles, go Birds, go DeVonta Smith, and go me for rooting for that team and that person respectively. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you can keep celebrating when you create an affordable price just for you by bundling home and auto. Talk to a State Farm agent today. Learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts, and savings, Sheil, and eligibility vary by state.
I had a little gnat kind of swarming during that segment that I was trying to swat away. I was having difficulty. And so if for no other reason than to see that, you got to subscribe to the Ringer NFL YouTube page. I looked like a complete idiot because when you're hitting the gnat and the gnat is between like the brim of the hat and your nose, like you got to be careful there. I don't want to flip my own lid. I don't want to smack myself in the nose. And so I was unsuccessful there. So that was a little bit embarrassing, but hey, that's what the video is for. All right. My next take, Benjamin Solak. Our team of extra point taken from last year. And I don't know, is he our guy now? I don't know. Brian Gutekunst Solak has a chance to really build an NFC powerhouse. Am I going too far? You tell me if I'm going too far. I might have got a little carried away with this. Here's the point I wanted to make, okay? I'm not sure how many non-Packers fans realize this, but the Green Bay Packers are positioned so beautifully going into this draft, given what they have on the roster and the resources they have available. They have 11 picks in this draft. That's tied for the most of any team. They have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. Solak, there are 3 teams with 5 or more picks in the first 3 rounds. The Commanders, stunk last year. Quarterback question. Coach question, maybe. Cardinals, not good last year. And the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, a team that was in the divisional round of the playoffs, a team that extra point taken said, this team, even though they have plus odds, they're making the playoffs. So, I love the quarterback. I think Matt LaFleur is underrated. I make that point over and over again. And then you look at the roster, like O-line, all right, yeah, could use a little bit of work there at right guard. Wide receiver, I'm usually the guy saying, no, you got to get one of the guys, but I look at that roster and I say, let's let the young guys play. Let's let the young guys grow. Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Dotavian Wicks. Let's see what they got here. You see what you get from Christian Watson. You see what you get from the tight ends you drafted last year. There's a lot to work with. Like, I don't think that's going to be their major problem. Now, maybe week 4 of next season rolls around and I say, no, they need to get a guy. That's possible. But I'm fine with the approach to stay patient with the young guys there. So you look at all this, you look at the way they've been able to find offensive linemen late in the draft over and over and over again. Just offensive line has not been a problem for them. And it's not like they've had to, sink all these crazy resources into it. So they're good there. Defense is where you obviously need to continue to add. The cupboard is not bare, but maybe the coordinator change makes a huge difference. But the point is, Solak, they can really be, every GM talks about best player available, some GMs are actually positioned to do that in this draft. And I think Brian Gutekunst is one of those guys. He can take the best player available. He can build depth. He can take a bunch of dart throws. They've got volume. He can maneuver up. He can maneuver down. He can trade for picks for next season. This is a great opportunity for the general manager of the Green Bay Packers to really continue to build this roster into a team that has a Super Bowl window for like the next 3 to 5 years and just hit on some of these picks and get those young core players and really feel good about where you are in the NFC. And the reason I brought up Gutekunst, this was a guy, Aaron Rodgers was calling him the Jerry Krause of the NFL a few years ago. Remember that? And now I'm trying to think, if you're like if I gave you your pick, you are, let's say, a GM or an owner, pick of any situation in the NFC. Let's just say NFC. We know AFC has a bunch of powerhouses. NFC, who is best positioned right now when you look at everything? Roster, coach, quarterback, to resources, to like really build a thing where they can compete for Super Bowls or be a really good team and have sustained success for the next 3 to 5 years. I think as you think about it, I think you can make a case for the 49ers just because
that's the team that I can't get past. I can get past the Eagles.
Okay.
Because I think the Eagles are built great and everything like that. Like Jalen Hurts, excellent quarterback. I'm not sure that he's like that perennial top 10 guy who's always like taking you that way. And then there's a lot of head coach instability that goes on there, right? It's a chance I take that job and next year I'm hiring all new guys. Dallas, great players, but obviously we've talked about the contract situations there. San Francisco, dude, I get to be the GM for
Detroit.
Kyle.
You didn't mention Detroit.
Detroit, Goff. I like everything else. I have to figure out quarterback. I have to figure out the future of quarterback. I don't want to have to do that. I want it to be done. At San Francisco, I don't need to figure out anything. You say, Ben, Brock Purdy, is he the future? Doesn't matter. Kyle's there. I can give Kyle a sack of potatoes at quarterback. We're winning 12 games. Don't worry about it. San Francisco is the one that's hard for me to say no to, just because I know I'm employing Kyle Shanahan, and that gives me such a competitive edge. That's hard to say no to over Green Bay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's true. But as we just talked out, you can make the case for the Packers, certainly in the top 3, 2, whatever. So they are very, very well positioned. And this isn't a big draft for Brian Gutekunst because if he blows it, he's going to get fired. No, but it's a big draft for him because if he nails it, or even if he just is a little bit above average, this team is going to be very, very well positioned in the NFC for this next stretch, and that sustained success. That's what every franchise is chasing. Yes, you're chasing a Super Bowl, but you're also chasing the possibility of being in the mix for a Super Bowl year in and year out. So there you go. Brian Gutekunst's chance to build power. Is powerhouse too strong? Powerhouse probably feels too strong, but I'm wearing the team content shirt. Sometimes you got to just throw it out there and see what happens.
The Packers have a chance to build that which the Packers have just always had, right? There's going to have just the chance to just be continued excellence with one quarterback forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah, no, that's certainly well said. Solak, what do you got for your third take?
All right. I don't think we're talking enough about the fact that the Bears might just save the franchise is the wrong word. They're the Bears. The Bears might be entering the best era of Bears football here in a second. The Bears, Sheil. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, right? We don't we don't talk about this enough. They have never had in a single season.
Wait, is that true?
Yes. Fields hasn't done
4,000. That's it.
Yes. Oh my God. They have never had a passer throw for more than 4,000 yards in a single season. They're the only NFL franchise. They're the only NFL franchise to ever have a quarterback throw 30 passing touchdowns in a single season. Obviously, like the Bears have had incredible eras of football. Urlacher and Briggs, like 86 ball to Peyton Sweetness. Like you don't want like best era of Bears football. Probably untrue. Best era of Bears quarterbacking. Okay, like actual like this is a guy like elite dude. There's not no Rex Grossman we got coming down the hill now with Caleb Williams. All right, there's no Jay Cutler we got coming into the room. Caleb, dude, I just finished charting Caleb last night. I got my hands on the last all 22 games I needed and whatever. Sheil, a good player. Like Caleb has a really good shot to be the best quarterback in Bears franchise history. Okay, like that. It's always an unreasonable thing to say about rookies, but in the case of the Bears, it might actually be true. Caleb could, in his rookie season, become the first Bears quarterback to throw more than 30 passing touchdowns in a season. That's not unreasonable. That's not at all. If he starts 17 games, he's got to average less than 2 a game. Like, he absolutely should be able to pull that off. He's a fantastic, fantastic prospect. The Bears also have, obviously, another top 10 pick, right? They have this 9 overall selection, which, man, as this board has fallen, as if 4 quarterbacks go top 6, 4 quarterbacks go top 8, that pick really could end. Like, what if it's Rome Odunze? Dude, it might really just end up being Rome Odunze. Like, what if Talise Fuaga? Oh, it could be Talise Fuaga. Dallas Turner. Like, they're gonna 4 quarterbacks go in the top 8 picks. Obviously, one of them being Caleb Williams for the Bears. They really have the potential to grab like a blue chip player. What do the Titans do at 7? What do the Falcons do at 8? There's a couple dominoes that can fall and maybe trade back and get pick 33, and then you make more selections, whatever. Like 2 picks in the top 10. One of which is going to be Caleb Williams, who, man, we just do not talk enough about like how bad quarterbacking has been in Chicago and how good he's been an afterthought for months now. It's been a locked in. Caleb's going 1 overall. Caleb's was unbelievable, man. This really, really, really has potential to be a special prospect. He moves and throws very similarly to Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying the name. I'm just saying the name. There's a chance this guy's great, okay? And then you have the pick there at 10. Going into a roster, going into a depth chart that, man, down the stretch last season, back half last year, Chicago Bears playing some good football games, all right? Defensively, quality contributors across the board. Montez Sweat trade was good. Jalen Johnson took a step forward. The TJ Edwards signing was good. The Tremaine Edmonds signing, probably too expensive, but was still good. The Tyreek Stevenson draft pick. They have dudes on defense. Offensive line, best it's been in years, right? The Darnell Wright pick at right tackle really started to settle in. The Kevin Jenkins, healthy at left guard. That started to play well for them. Nate Davis, probably not great. Braxton Jones, could you improve on him? Yes. But still, the DJ Moore acquisition and the Keenan Allen acquisition. Like, the Bears are pretty good. And Caleb's pretty good. And when you put a pretty good quarterback on a pretty good roster, man, expectations leap up. You don't want to put the cart before the horse. Lions are great. The Packers are great. We just talked about them. Vikings, put a rookie quarterback on that roster. That's a great offensive roster. They've got defensive pieces too. NFC North might just be like a lights out division when we talk about them in the offseason. But for Chicago specifically, man, I don't think we have made enough of a recognition or realization that this has the potential to be a watershed draft for the franchise. Where they have been cycling quarterbacks for 15 years, for 20 years, and they are going to draft a guy at 1 overall, who I think it is extremely reasonable to expect him to make all pros. It is extremely reasonable to expect him to be a 10-year starter in the league. Like, that is the caliber of guy we've got here in Caleb. This is the dude, man. This is the 2 top 10 picks. One of them, Caleb Williams. This is the draft dude. He's gonna be the best quarterback in Bears history.
Why are you doing this to them? Haven't they been through enough?
Funny. If it doesn't work, it's so funny.
I mean, I was just watching you putting myself in the shoes of a Bears fan, listening to this, just yelling, "Shut up, Solak! Like, shut up! We've heard it before. I know he's a different like if you're a Bears fan, the internal excitement is very similar to what you just laid out there. Absolutely, no doubt about it. I like Caleb Williams. You like Caleb Williams. We both like the Bears. You were ahead of me on liking the Bears at the middle of last season, and I caught on late, and I'm like, no, this Bears team is pretty feisty. They've got some players here. They make the Keenan Allen trade. It is a nice ecosystem for a rookie quarterback to come into. Offensive line, we'll see, but you got a couple wide receivers there. But Solak, they've been through so much. I mean, 13 years here without a playoff win. 13 years without a playoff win. Like, that's hard to do in the modern NFL. So if you're a Bears fan, probably to anyone who's not a Bears fan, you're like, I'm not talking about it. No, thank you. Sorry. And then internally, when you're amongst your people, then you can share the excitement that Solak just shared. Do you think then, we know you like Caleb Williams, like, is this going to be an immediate? Like, are you seeing a CJ Stroud type? All right, that's not fair. CJ Stroud had like one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say that. But do you think Caleb Williams can be good enough as a rookie? I'm not asking you to make your playoff picks now, but do you see them now when you deliver that wonderful soliloquy? Was that a soliloquy?
My soliloquy, monologue.
Okay.
Uh,
monologue.
Yes.
Do you
Speech
see them
given-
as a
yeah.
team that's going to compete for the playoffs, or even go further and say, no, this team's making the playoffs in year one?
I think they will compete. Like my projection for the team last year was that they would come in around 500. I had them at like 8 and 9. I want to say 9 and 8. And that they would surge late. And I thought they would do that kind of with Fields. And obviously they went 7 and 10. They missed some time with Fields, and the surge late was a lot more about the defense. And they move on from Fields, whatever. This year I expect bump that up a couple games because you expect them to kind of pick up where they left off last year. Development is not linear. But they still have a lot of good players, and they're gonna have a change of quarterback. Don't smirk at me when I do a callback. All right.
I like that you had to remind you. Yeah, you had to remind yourself of your point.
Yes. I spent 60 minutes on this show doing one thing, is trying to defend myself from you. All right, and so I'm just mentally I'm putting.
I'm a nice person. I will not stand for this.
Just guards, just wards. All right. Every so often, I indulge myself and I let myself have a take I actually believe when I know that it's going to it come with a heavy criticism, i.e., Caleb Williams is going to be the best quarterback in Bears history.
I can't wait to hear I can't wait to hear who your hipster team's going to be. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to for August, and which team am I going to have to crush.
I think the North is tough, and so it's going to be hard. I think they're going to be above 500, and I think they're going to be in the hunt on the bubble. They're going to be on the graphic, right? It's good saying it. They're going to be on the graphic all the way through the season. How good of a rookie season can Caleb have is tricky. Because I think that Caleb's going to have a high interception rookie season. I think he's going to lose them a game or two by being a knucklehead. I don't think he is pro ready in that go win January playoff games, high polished game sense. I do think that Caleb's going to walk on the field and belong immediately, man. I mean, I think we have all far too easily just kind of smoothed over the Caleb Williams experience. People ask is he as good of a prospect as Trevor, good of a prospect as Luck, and that's always very challenging to talk about because we know what those players became. Nobody remembers what guys actually were as prospects. Was he as good of a prospect as Trevor? No, he wasn't. Well, could he be better through the first 3 years than Trevor has been? Absolutely, 100%, unequivocally. Caleb's a good player.
My favorite Caleb Williams plays from film were not the escape, spin out of pressure I loved when he kind of felt the edge pressure and climbed up there like Andrew Luck style and just ripped one downfield. Yeah, those were my favorite Caleb Williams plays where I'm like, oh, baby, that looks nice.
So little peek ahead at that and some of the numbers. These will be coming out midweek for The Ringer on the Ringer NFL Draft Guide, NFLDraft.theringer.com, NFL Draft membership subscribe. Caleb Williams, in terms of quarterbacks I've charted, which lasts 5-6 years, has some of the most throws from messy platforms, adjusted platforms that I've ever charted, and some of the best accuracy from adjusted platforms I've ever charted. When this guy lands on his back foot and the pocket's not perfect, there are not many prospects I've seen who are better. He is highly mature. He's also nuts. And the throws that he decides to attempt are irresponsible and unacceptable and ridiculous. There's like a 3rd and 10 against it's like a third and 4 against Oregon where they're down 3 scores in the second half. And he's got trash at his feet. He's got a receiver open 5 yards, and he throws the ball 45 yards down the field. You're like, dude, you cannot do this. But the fact that he can find it, that's what it is. It's the throws that he finds from the platforms that he finds, ludicrous, unbelievable. Just stupid stuff.
I look forward to checking out what you just mentioned, the QB charting project from Solak. Yeah, I thought what you mentioned, he can make the 1% throws. And then I also just loved that he hits the layups over and over and over again. The easy throws, he makes them with great accuracy. So there you go, Bears fans. You're already excited enough. I mean, the thing is, Bears fans have been talking about this since when? I mean, like you said, it has been a long stretch here where they've just been so excited about potentially getting this guy, and rightfully so, that now that the day is almost here, they're probably not going to know what to do with themselves. And then just that anticipation for him getting on the field. But yeah, they have 4 picks only in this draft. So like you mentioned, they have 1 and they have 9. They can add 2 guys to a roster that they've been investing in. That's pretty good. And I do think they're a potential playoff team in 2024. All right. My last take is a very stupid one.
Good.
For our bet shows during the season, I have like what do I call it? Sheil stupidest bet of the season, and we
Yes.
had that there in the spreadsheet. So my take is I'm ready to poke holes in the Kansas City Chiefs once again. It's only been what February, March,
Ridiculous decision. I'm
two,
sorry.
2 months. It's been 2 months. Before that, I famously had egg on my face last season when I said they're not winning the Super Bowl with this offense. That was I think after the Christmas Day loss to the Raiders. Then they go on the run. They win the Super Bowl. They make me look stupid. I apologize after the game that, all right, I was way wrong about that. I can own it. Now, after the Super Bowl, so like I thought, all right, they're not going to do that again. They're not going to give Patrick Mahomes that weak of a supporting cast ever again. I'm sure they're happy they won the Super Bowl, but they know they need to add to that group. They know they need to give him more help. And I want to be fair here. They still have time. This roster could look very different in week 1 than it does now. But right now, I have some concerns. Okay, this Rashee Rice story is bad. Rice had 1,200 yards last year. If you include the playoffs, was by far their best wide receiver. And this is from Pro Football Talk and the Dallas Morning News. If you're not familiar with the story, Rice was allegedly racing a former SMU teammate in Dallas, going 119 miles per hour, causing a 6-vehicle crash, at least 7 people injured. He fled the scene. And so he is facing 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of collision involving serious bodily injury, and 6 counts of collision involving injury. So obviously, the state of the Chiefs is not the most important thing. We hope everyone involved there. I mean, that is a scary situation. That is irresponsible behavior, and they put people's lives at risk. So that's number one. There are multiple people dealing with injuries. We don't know how long lasting, but dealing with injuries right now. Now you shift back to the non-serious aspect of it, which is football and what this Chiefs team is going to look like. Like, there's a lot to sort through here. We have to see how the legal process plays out. We have to see, will the league discipline Rashee Rice? Will the team dole out any discipline for Rashee Rice? So there's a lot of uncertainty now for the Kansas City Chiefs when you felt like this was a player who they were going to continue to build with, who Patrick Mahomes was going to continue to grow with. Now there's some uncertainty there. And so Travis Kelce will be 35 in October. The guy they added was Marquise Brown, who I like a little more than you do. But now Patrick Mahomes, if Rice is missing any time, it's Marquise Brown, Justin Watson, and Sky Moore. It's like Groundhog's Day from last season. It may be worse than it was last season. And by the way, they also have a question at left tackle. So I know if you're a Chiefs fan, you're like, shut up. Who cares? We just won the Super Bowl. We've won 3 Super Bowls. Why is this your dumb take? You're going to look stupid again next year. Entirely possible. They absolutely can win the Super Bowl with this group. I'm just sort of surprised. I thought that by 10 days before the draft, that the Kansas City Chiefs roster, that the supporting cast around Patrick Mahomes was going to look better than it does right now. Again, could look different. Week 1 comes around next year and they've got different players. Maybe they do stuff in the draft. Maybe they make a trade, whatever. But right now, I'm a little underwhelmed with what they've done as they try to defend their title. Okay. Tell me how stupid I am.
Who's the quarterback there again?
I know. I said that. I already said that.
I just want to make sure I understood.
Okay. But did you not expect them to do more? Did you think they were just going to say, we did it last year, let's just stick, we can do that every year type deal?
I thought they were going to do more. I don't mind the fact that they did not as much, because I do think that they are in a very good position. The Chiefs are to do free agency, recruit. That's what I was looking for. Recruit and attract players in like the second wave of free agency, the third wave of free agency. A lot of those like veteran free agents who they don't immediately sign with the team because they're in the late stage of the career and they want to attach themselves to a contender. They're in a great position to attract those. They're willing to make in-season trades before the deadline. We see them do that. Not at the time of success, but we've seen them do that right over the past. They're good in the margin. Like I think that if you took Brett Veach out of Kansas City and plopped him on a different team, like, no Patrick Mahomes, I think obviously he'd have to be more aggressive and, change your philosophy and adjust to the quarterback and the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, whatever. But one of the things that I think the Chiefs just have always done really well is be really good with like 3rd tier and 4th tier veteran free agent contracts and with like trades for 5th round picks, right? Oh, go get Charles Omenihu. Think about like everything they got out of Jerick McKinnon for how long they got Jerick McKinnon. 6th round pick on Trey Smith. Like they've always just been so good. Like in the later rounds with the smaller contracts filling the gaps. That's where Veach and his staff has always been strong. So I think that they're always going to stay with their bread buttered there. I don't think they're ever going to be like a super aggressive team, even if you took Veach away from Mahomes. Throw in the fact that he's got Mahomes, and there's just not too much incentive to be like the earliest guy on the contract for the insert player here, right? Fill this need. Like it's just go get Drew Tranquil. Just that's been how they've done it, and then go get Mike Edwards, and they've been successful with that. So I understand why they continue to go that way. I do think their pendulum has swung too far, absolutely, but it doesn't surprise me that it has, and it's tough to fault them too much. Now we'll see how this draft goes, because let's say the draft doesn't fall the way they want it to, and all of a sudden they're walking into next season with Wanya Morris and their right tackle, whose name I certainly is
Juwan
not
Taylor.
Thank you, Juwan Taylor. They walk in with Wanya Morris and Juwan Taylor. Then it's like, oh, eek, like maybe we flew too close to the sun here. But they still have the draft going, and like my expectation is they're going to take a tackle, maybe not even round 1, but somewhere in the first couple rounds, and they're going to think that they can squeeze a starter out of that player. That's what they've done over the last few seasons.
Let me be clear, before you all yell at me. Yes, they can. As long as he's the quarterback, you can stick anyone out there, and they will have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I get that. I was just a little surprised, a little underwhelmed so far. But Solak made a good point. Maybe they're still adding people, but I think that makes them pretty interesting going into this draft as well, because I do think whether it's tackle or wide receiver, they're going to need these guys to contribute right away. Maybe they just find the next Rashee Rice. I mean, that's entirely possible that they find a guy in this draft in the first 3 rounds who is a good player, who steps in that infrastructure with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and is good right away. They've got 7 picks, 3 in the first 3 rounds. All right, Solak, extra point taken. What do you got?
All right. Sheil, for my extra point taken today, I have 3 bets that if I were betting the NFL draft on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, the official sportsbook of extra point taken, the NFL draft. If I
How do you talk so fast? I mean, that's like incredible. I'm like, wait.
I was about
get
to
all
say
that?
my
All right.
mother taught me. However, on a recent episode, you made the comment about how sometimes I seem like I'm complimenting you, but there's actually a criticism snuck in there. And I responded with, yeah, I learned that from my mom. And then I got a text from my mother asking me, what did you mean by my mom taught me that? And I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you said it on the show. And I was like, which show, Mom? Like, I do a lot of pods. You got to help me out. She's like, on the Sheil one. I was like, I'm on a Sheil. I really didn't remember. Then she went back and she sent me minute and second where I said it. And then I listened back and I was like, you're right. Sorry, Mom. And she made the point. She was like, that was your grandmother who did that. And I was like, you're right. I should have said your mom is the one who taught me that. Obviously, it skipped a generation. But yeah, so no more. My mom taught me that on the podcast. It got me into some hot water.
The next text will be incoming in the next 24
No
hours.
more. No more.
I love a Mama Solak, of course. I would never say anything.
The great Mosh, of
All right,
course.
sorry, continue.
So I've 3 bets that if I were betting the NFL draft on FanDuel right now, these are ones that I would like. These are ones that I would take. I'm gonna walk you through them, and then I'm gonna ask for your opinion. I have one that's like a heavy favorite, one that's about 50-50, and one that's a fun long shot. All right.
All right. I haven't looked at any of these, so I'm glad to hear them. I don't know what any of these numbers are going to be. What do you got?
Heavy favorite. The position of the first drafted player by the New Orleans Saints to be an offensive lineman is -220. All right. So this is okay. Wherever the Saints pick, 14, 1, 800, wherever their first pick is, to be an offensive lineman, interior or offensive line, or tackle, excuse me. Mock draft roundup posted this morning on SI.com for the Saints by John Hendricks has 18 mock drafts sampled. 16 of the 18 have the Saints taking an offensive lineman. All right, with their picks. You have 1 Brock Bowers, 1 Brian Thomas. Everything else is just Troy Fontenot and Olu Fashanu and Amarius Mims and Talise Fuaga. The Saints are in dire straits on their offensive line. Ryan Ramczyk has a knee problem at right tackle. Trevor Penning has not been what they wanted to be at left tackle. They've lost starters on the interior. They're in a place of total upheaval there at that spot. I think the front office knows that that's the most dire position of need. They have guys at a lot of other spots as well, even though some aging dudes, some contract dudes. I think edge rusher is still very much a potential for them. But overall, I do like Saints offensive line -220. That's your heavy favorite. Your 50-50 one, over under draft slot for Cooper DeJean, corner out of Iowa. Under 22.5 at -108. Critically, that 22.5 gives you the Eagles at 22, who I think are a great Cooper DeJean candidate. He's the size, he's the athleticism. They tend to like it corner. They have a very desperate need. at corner. So you're getting that 22, you're getting that Eagles pick. Even in front of the Eagles, you have the Steelers at 20, who are a corner candidate team. The Rams at 19 are a corner candidate team. The Jags at 17. DeJean is visiting the Seahawks today. They're a corner candidate team at 16. The Colts at 15. It is a big, healthy cornerback need chunk right there in the middle of the draft. Expectations are right now that the top, like the expectation for the top picks is that you're going to see Terry and Arnold and Quinion Mitchell, the two top corners, go somewhere in the top 15. So Cooper DeJean under 22.5 is the third best corner on the board. I think is a good selection. And then the last and the longest, Sheil. First wide receiver off the board. Marvin, I always get their names wrong, and it always ruins my time. First wide receiver off the board, Malik Neighbors at plus 400. Now, this was plus 500 a while ago. It's moved to plus 400 now. You've just seen reporting for months at this point that there are some teams, no one's saying who, but there are some teams that have Malik Neighbors ranked above Marvin Harrison to be the top wide receiver in this class. We don't know if that's the Patriots at 3. We don't know if that's the Cardinals at 4. Both those teams are trade-out candidates. You might get to the Chargers at 5, or they take a wide receiver. Do we know who they like? This is not as cut and dry. Marvin is the clear top 1 guy, as the markets indicate it is. And so I already have some Malik Neighbors to be the first overall receiver off the board from earlier, but it's still at plus 400. I would be willing to take it. So my 3 bets from Extra Point are Marvin Harrison to be Malik Neighbors to be the first wide receiver off the board at plus 400. Malik Neighbors, first wide receiver, plus 400. Cooper DeJean to go before pick 22.5, minus 108. And the Saints to take an offensive lineman with their first pick at minus 220. You a buyer on any of those, Sheil?
I don't like the Saints one, only because I don't like the odds. Minus 220. I mean, isn't it? It's not like a loaded roster. Like, I know it's a need, but it's entirely possible that a Brian Thomas Jr. or somebody else, in my opinion, could be the pick there. So I don't like that at those odds, minus 220. Neighbors is like, might be my favorite prospect in the draft.
You love Neighbors.
I love a Neighbors, but it goes back to the conversation we always have about GMs. Who is the GM who's gonna have the whatever term you want to use to pick Malik Neighbors over Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, I love Neighbors, and if you told me like no one will ever know, I might be like, all right, yeah, let's go Neighbors. But if my name's on it and I'm the guy who I know this is a dumb way to think, but I just feel like that's going to be a hard pill
Not
to
for
swallow,
nothing, but like 7 linebackers are going to go before Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in this year's class. Just an FYI.
So I plus 400. Yeah, I could talk myself into that. I'm trying to think. All right, so if it's the Cardinals at 4 and they stay put, I don't think they would take Neighbors over Harrison. But just feel like they would take the sure thing.
I don't think anybody should, but apparently some people will. Like, think Chargers at 5. What do the Chargers need a wide receiver? What have they been missing for 10 years? Speed, baby. Shoot. Push him. You think Jim Harbaugh's taking an Ohio State grad? Think he's taking the Buckeye over Neighbors and the explosives? I don't know.
Oh, that would be some good juice if Jim Harbaugh passed on Marvin Harrison Jr.
Also great juice if he takes Marvin Harrison, though. Right?
True.
You know, says what's up to him. You know, they say hi in the hallway. They dap it up. Chargers post it on social. Everyone's furious. Ohio State fans hate it. Michigan fans hate it.
And then the DeJean one is also very difficult for me. I think that's probably the one I would take. I think if the Eagles stay put at 22, I think DeJean is on like the short list of most likely candidates that they would pick at that spot. Now, they could move up. They could move back. So at minus 108, yeah, I think there will be teams that just say football player. Go get the football player. We'll play him at corner. If it doesn't work out, we can play him at slot. We can play him at safety. We know he's good. He's physical. He's tough. He can tackle. He's athletic. He's versatile. So he has like a lot of the traits that I think a team would in that range would say, look at the other people on the board and say, all right, we don't need to hit maybe a grand slam with this pick. Let us get a good quality football player who can help us now and has some upside for the future. So I think DeJean is my favorite of the 3 under 22.5. Now you got to get the 22.5. If you're saying under 22,
Yep.
Then I'm probably a no on that. But I think under 22.5, that's the one I think I like the most.
Yeah, I did just recently take the DeJean one. I've had the Malik one for a bit, and I've had the Saints for a bit. But it was a different price then. But the DeJean one I took this week because I do think that he's very clearly established himself as corner 3. He's gonna go before Kool-Aid. He's gonna go before Wiggins. And just there's so many teams between 15 and 22 that need a corner. You have to imagine at some point he's the top guy on the board. So yeah,
Definitely
DeJean,
go
man,
before Wiggins. You said that very confidently. You think definitely? You feel that confident?
yeah. So right now, which this is not a good proxy because it's the first cornerback drafted market. It's not like the inherent order in which they'll go. But right now, first cornerback drafted, Quinion Mitchell's -175, Terran Arnold's +165. They're pretty much like, okay, it's gonna be one of those two dudes. DeJean is third at +1,000, then Nate Wiggins is +2,200. There's a big delta between Nate Wiggins' numbers and DeJean's numbers. Again, that is a very imperfect proxy, but it does serve a little bit to kind of show you what the rankings are in the league. I know Circa released their over-unders for corners, and we have DeJean at over-under 20.5 at Circa. This was at open. The lines have changed since then. And Nate Wiggins was at 26.5. Kool-Aid McKinstry was at 28.5. And so for most books at this point, DeJean is the clear favorite over Wiggins to be a third corner off the board.
There you go. Another good extra point taken. All right. You'll get dual threat on this feed during the week. And then Solak and I will be back on Friday. Again, reminder, get us some questions. We will do a mailbag episode on Friday. Then I think on Monday, Solak, we're going to do some bold predictions for our final pre-draft.
I was close to doing bold predictions for my extra point taking. Give you a little Sheil, 3 things might happen. Pick which one's the most likely, but I figured I'd holster it. Holster for a week.
Now you can save them for Monday. So that'll be the schedule. And then the next time we're on, the draft will have already happened. So coming up very soon here. All right. Thank you to Solak. Thank you to Ace Producer, Cliff Augustine. Thanks to Eduardo Ocampo on social and Ronak Nair on video, and additional production supervision by Connor Nevins and Arjuna Ramgopal. We'll talk to everyone on Friday.